Whenever I play a Zelda game here on the channel, I always get asked what's my favorite temple, and I never really have a good answer, so I figured why not make some videos about it. Today we're going to rank some Zelda temples from worst to best, and we're going to start things off slowly by ranking the main temples in the Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask. Now, unlike most Zelda games, Majora's Mask only has 4 major temples, so one would think it would be pretty easy to rank, right? Well, I would disagree. What Majora's Mask lacks in quantity, it more than makes up for in quality. The temples in Majora's Mask are all very good and extremely memorable in their own right, but if I had to rank them, I think my least favorite would have to be Woodfall. Woodfall for me just unfortunately suffers from First Temple Syndrome, which is an imaginary term I just made up that basically means, while the temple itself is not objectively bad, because it takes place first in the game, the player might not have too many items or transformations, so the temple is limited in what mechanics it can make use of. As a result, Woodfall feels like something is missing when compared to the other temples in Majora's Mask. That doesn't mean that Woodfall is a terrible temple by any means. I personally like the swamp aesthetic with the poison water in the center, and both the mini-boss and normal boss are very memorable for me. For the first main temple in the game, I think Woodfall is great, but given that the temples really only go up from there, makes it the lowest ranking temple on this list. Next up is Snowhead. Snowhead might be a pain to get to, especially thanks to this annoying little brat. But once you make it inside, you are treated to a very vertical temple, which is something I like a lot. The temple revolves around this central pillar, which you must carefully adjust the height of at the right time, or risk blocking off an area and having to go back and lose some progress. One thing I dislike about Snowhead is the mini-boss. Wizrobe is just annoying, and he's by far one of the most overused mini-bosses in the entire game. In fact, this isn't even the only temple he's a mini-boss in. He shows up later on in Stone Tower Temple too. To make up for that though, this temple makes great use of the Goron Mask to not only solve puzzles, but generally move about the temple. And Snowhead is one of the best boss fights in the entire game. Goat. Say what you want about Goat, but I honestly love this boss fight. Rolling around at high speeds, chasing after a giant bull while dodging attacks and trying to land hits is both challenging and enjoyable. And that's why I think this is my number 3 pick. Now, this one might surprise you guys, but for me, the second best temple in the game is Stone Tower Temple. And I know that a lot of you guys will probably disagree with me on this one, and honestly, I can understand why. Stone Tower is a great temple. It truly puts you as a player to the test, using every single transformation mask and technique that you've learned thus far, and it expects you to have them mastered. It even goes one step further and tests your spatial reasoning. You see, the gimmick for this temple is that you have to do it normally, and then flip the temple upside down to finish off the other half. This perfectly demonstrates something that can only be done on a 3D Zelda game, but also forces you to look at every single room a bit differently as you try to figure out how objects like boxes can be manipulated to reach a switch that is seemingly unreachable. Everything about Stone Tower's design is simple, yet spot on. The exterior climb to get to the temple, the mini-bosses, and even the main boss itself. All of those things combined make Stone Tower an incredible and memorable experience. I honestly wanted to make Stone Tower my number 1 pick, but I just couldn't because my number 1 pick goes to Great Bay Temple. Now, hear me out, guys. Great Bay is my number 1 pick because it's just a well thought out and designed temple. It also happens to be my favorite water-based temple in any 3D Zelda game. It should serve as an example of how to do water temples correctly. I understand this temple can be a little complex, since you need to adjust the rotation of the turbine in the center by turning the valves hidden throughout the temple, and we probably all got stuck on this temple at one point as a kid, but I appreciate the mental gymnastics this temple expects from you. Similarly to Stone Tower, it expects you to notice the large water wheels or turbines in the rooms as you go, and piece together that they interact with one another, and use that knowledge to navigate through to reach new areas. And I think a big part of why this temple is fun is that swimming as Zora Link is already enjoyable. You aren't slowed down, the controls are snappy and responsive, and you feel like you're always in control. Not only that, but the temple is designed to keep you moving when you're in the water. Most people probably got stuck on a puzzle that involved reversing the spin of the central turbine, but the temple is designed in such a way that you should only need to hit each colored valve once. It's up to you to figure out how to go about doing that though. Unfortunately, the boss of Great Bay is one of the worst. Georg, as much as I love him, is a dumb boss. Whether you're playing on the N64 or the 3DS version, Gjorg just isn't a fun fight. It's a little more bearable on the 3DS version, but it's still nothing to write home about. Thankfully, it is pretty quick and only a small fraction of this temple, so I think it's forgivable. Anyways, there you have it, guys. Those are the temples of Majora's Mask, ranked according to me. As always, feel free to rank these temples yourselves in the comments down below. I look forward to seeing what you guys think. That's going to do it for this video though, so if you enjoyed it, a like rating would be greatly appreciated. If you want to see more of my videos, consider subscribing. Once again though guys, my name is Matt, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.